Welcome to How to Use Uber in Disney World. This will be a little bit of a walkthrough of everything that's included in this blog post and some extra elaborations that might be needed. So this here is just a bit of an introduction, but the main thing to start with is how to use Uber in Disney World. You will download the app first. I have links whether you're using an Android device or an Apple device. Once you've downloaded the app, it'll ask you to sign up. It'll ask for your phone number, name, and email address. And then it'll send you a code to verify your phone number. And then you'll need to attach a valid debit or credit card to your account. Or if you have a gift card, you can add that to your account then. The app itself does have its own little walkthrough that you can go through if you have time. And it'll also ask if there's any safety features that you want to enable. So once you're logged in and all set up, you'll go into the Home tab and you will enter your pickup location. And you can type in like the name of the place or the specific address if you know it. And then you do want to make sure that your location services are turned on because that way you can make sure that the pinpoint of where it shows you is the same pinpoint of where you're saying that you need picked up from. A common mistake is saying that you need picked up from Magic Kingdom, but Uber cannot come to the front of Magic Kingdom. They have to go to the Transportation and Ticket Center. So you will have to take the ferry or the monorail over to the Transportation and Ticket Center to be able to be picked up. And you'll see that your little pinpoint is not in the same spot, so you'll just have to move to it. Once you've decided where you need picked up from, you can enter your drop-off location, and same thing, you can put in a physical address or search by the name. From there, it'll show you the cost of the ride and then potential ride options that you can choose from. So this is just an example one. I was doing Disney Springs to Polynesian, and this number here, the 3 minutes, shows that that's how long it's going to take until your driver gets there. And this happens to have a flash promo on there. I think it's just because I hadn't been using it, or it might have just been a slow time. But you can see all the different types of Ubers that you can get and what their prices are. Uber X is just normal. Uber XL is larger, it fits more people. Comfort is like newer cars with bigger space, and then the Car Seat XL guarantees the car seat. So all of those options are explained here. So you can choose your ride based off of the type of transportation you need and the price that you're willing to pay for it. And you can schedule this in advance if you would like. There's a logo of a clock on the bottom right. And you do get free cancellation up to an hour beforehand. That could change at any time, so just check when you do it. But this is where you would go if you wanted to schedule it in advance. Here is what the page looks like if you either need to be picked up at a certain time that you want to be picked up, or if there's a time you need to be dropped off by, it'll schedule it based off of that. So some common questions once the Uber actually arrives is how do you know which vehicle to get into? Because if you're leaving at the end of the park day and there's like 20 Ubers lined up getting people in, the app's going to show you the driver's picture, their name, the car make, the car model, the car color, and even the license plate. It is highly encouraged to confirm all of these things are matching up before you get into your Uber, because you don't know who may just be trying to scam people and they could be sketchy. So always check that all of those things match up. They also have a safety feature where they can have the driver verify a PIN with you if you want to take that extra step as well. Another thing is you can follow along the route on your Uber app. That way, since you may not be familiar with the area, you don't know if they're taking you off path or not, but that can just kind of be a way for you to make sure that your ride is safe. A question about using cash. You can't use cash to pay for the Uber, but you can use cash to pay the tip. Everything with Uber is done through the app. So the tip afterwards, you'll get a little notification saying that your ride is complete, and it'll ask you to rate the ride that you had and ask if you want to leave a tip. You really only need to do a few dollars most of the time unless you had like a crazy expensive ride. But you can also leave a cash tip for them if you would prefer. Now is when we get into a little bit about using Uber specifically throughout Disney World. I mentioned this previously, so with Magic Kingdom, Uber cannot pick you up from the main entrance of the park. That little transportation hub is only for Disney buses, so they have to come pick you up from the Transportation and Ticket Center, which is probably how you got there in the first place. So take a monorail or a ferry over there and then schedule your Uber from there. The only way that you can be picked up from Magic Kingdom directly is through minivans, which is a Disney specific thing that I'll get into a little bit later so that I have some more time to elaborate on that. Epcot doesn't have any special navigation things. You'll follow the signs out to like bus transportation, and then you'll see signs for like the Uber and Lyft pickup. You'll see on this photo that it shows ride share and it's pointing to the direction that you need to go. Hollywood Studios, same thing. They don't have anything special for that. Their transportation signs will also show you and point you towards rideshare pickup specifically. Animal Kingdom is also at the park entrance, but it's not where the buses are. You're going to go out to the parking lot like you're going to your car, and there will be a sign. It says Lyft pickup zone. The signs might be different each time you visit, but that's going to be for any rideshare options. Disney Springs has 2 different locations that you could be picked up or dropped off by an Uber. There's one in the Marketplace section and then one on the west side. So the Marketplace section is like the super Disney branded area that's over by like Saratoga Springs. And then the west side is the far side with the Cirque du Soleil tent. If you know where you're going to be going within Disney Springs to somewhere specific, you can pick a specific one, or you can even check to see if the price is any different, depending on how accessible it is and the different route you might take depending on where you're coming from. But really, it's all one place, so it's not really a big deal if you end up at the wrong one. Blizzard Beach, they will just drop you off right at the park entrance. There's nothing special about that process. Same with Typhoon Lagoon, they can just drive right up to the entrance and there's nothing special. Again, they all have signs that show like rideshare or Lyft, but if it just says Lyft, they mean any rideshare. It doesn't have to be specifically Lyft. And then for the hotels, there's over 25 different resort hotels, but it's pretty much the same for everything, just the main entrance of your hotel. Just always go to the main entrance, go to the lobby, and they can pick you up from there. If you're at one of the resorts that are really spread out, you can have them come to your specific building if that's easier for you as well. And then if you're familiar with it at all, Wide World of Sports have spring events where they host teams and things like that. So if you need to go there, it is just listed as Wide World of Sports Complex. And again, they'll just take you right up to the front. Some tips for using Uber at Disney and just things to consider is the cost. So like personally, I've never needed to use an Uber when I'm at Disney because they have free transportation and sometimes I'm able to drive myself around. It is going to cost you at least $10 to $15 each way. I can't think of too many places that would end up being less than that. But if you're going really far across property, it could be $25. But they also do this thing called surge pricing. So when it's in high demand, the prices will increase a lot. So if you want to use an Uber, like right at 9 o'clock when Epcot closes, that's going to be the most expensive time. If you're willing to take your time leaving the park and wait a little bit, you can get a little less. But if the timing is super important to you, then just know you may be paying a higher price. Another thing to consider is the travel time. Most places around Disney, you can get to them within about 15 minutes unless you're going from like the farthest ends of the property to each other. Then it could be like 25 minutes. With the drivers, you'll kind of get a mix of some that are super familiar with it because they just stay around Disney and they're used to it. But there's also a lot of people that don't really know it at all. And that could cause some longer driving times because they're not in the know as much and doing more defensive driving than just kind of knowing their way around. And also if you're there for like a marathon weekend, there's a lot of temporary road closures, so you have to go like roundabout ways to get to things. So just because it's like direct transportation that you order yourself doesn't always mean that it's going to be the absolute fastest. Sometimes it can be. Consider the wait time as well. Usually you can get your ride there within about 5 minutes, maybe 10. But when I've used Uber in the area, I haven't really used it for like getting around Disney on like my normal vacation, but I've used it at like Disney Springs to other like area resorts, and I've never really had to wait more than 15 minutes, but I'm sure if you're going exactly at like park closing or for rope drop, you may have a little bit of extra time, so plan ahead for that. You may not, like, for example, if you need to be somewhere at 9 o'clock and it's 9:30, don't wait till 9:30 to check the app to see what the wait time is. Like, check it beforehand to make sure that you're good to go. This also applies for the being in a time crunch. If you're staying at like a Disney hotel and you have a reservation for dinner at another Disney hotel, but they're not really like connected by anything, then you would have to like take a bus to one of the theme park entrances and then take a bus to your hotel. Usually there's some other ways to do that too. But if you don't have time for all that bouncing around, then it is easier to take an Uber if you want to pay for that. Having like early morning breakfast reservations, this would be a great time to use that because the buses might not necessarily be running, or they will be like completely full because of people rope dropping. So keep that in mind. Also, just in general, like if you have any needing like special needs just from like a sensory perspective or even just physical limitation, sometimes it's good to use Uber instead to limit that kind of like overwhelm, or also to be able to like take your own time and not feel like the other people trying to get on and off the transportation are like rushing you or crowding you. This part I kind of explained just a little bit. You can also compare rates between rideshare services. So this one's about Uber in particular, but Lyft is kind of like the one that has the partnership with Disney. So Lyft is probably going to be more commonly used there or more talked about. So I use both apps interchangeably. It truly makes no difference to me. I will just look and see what the prices are and which one shows me the better offer in relation to how long my wait's going to be. And then another thing to consider is just making sure you understand the policy of like canceling your ride, any penalties there might be, and anything to have to do with disputes. Some of the examples here, so like if there was some sort of miscommunication with the driver and they are like not able to like find you or get to you, sometimes they will just cancel, or you will just cancel and do something else. I've had that happen before. I forget where we were. But you may be charged like a penalty because they were, spending that time driving, but you can go in and request a refund if it was like a no fault of your own cancellation. So like if they canceled on you. Another thing that happens is if the driver like took a wrong turn or decided to just drive you on the scenic route and you end up being charged a higher price than what you were originally quoted, then you can go back and request for the price to be adjusted. And they can go through and do that for you. Nothing's ever guaranteed, obviously, but these are some options that are available. If you're concerned about car seats at all, you do have to pick a specific option of the Uber with the car seat on there. You'll see it in your list of car options. Usually it is just one car seat though. So if you need two, then I would go the minivan route through Lyft, which I will again talk about in full detail later on so that I can elaborate on it. But also, like, if you need two car seats to get anywhere or more than that, I would just try to use Disney's free transportation as much as possible, since you don't have to worry about car seats on any of it. So Uber for rope drop. So you may think you can like beat the crowd by like, taking an Uber at like 6 a.m. if they like don't let people up there until 7. But the Uber driver will have to go through the parking lot just like any normal parking guest would. So the parking lot generally opens an hour before the theme park opens. And that also includes if there's like an early entry day. So if, the resort guests get in, the park opens at 8:30 for them, then the Uber driver can get in at 7:30. So you can plan your pickup to be getting there at the that time that the parking lot opens, but they're not going to be let in before that. So if you call an Uber and they get to Epcot and it's 7 a.m., but the parking lot doesn't open until 7:30, then you'll just have to sit there and be charged for that 30 minutes that you're waiting, so you can avoid that. Some other things you could do, though, if you wanted to do this early, some of the parks do have walkable entrances to them. Epcot and Hollywood Studios being mainly those. So if you wanted to take an Uber to the boardwalk or the yacht club or the beach club, the Swan, the Dolphin, any of them early, like for whatever reason, if you wanted like even that extra 30 minutes, you could get dropped off there. And then you could just walk to the front of the park. That way you don't have to wait for like the parking lot to open or the Disney transportation to start running. Magic Kingdom, it's harder to do that because the Contemporary doesn't really let you drop off there unless you have a reservation for something there, because it is such a congested area. So you wouldn't be able to do that like for Magic Kingdom, but you could definitely do it for Epcot and Hollywood Studios. You could even be dropped off at like the mini golf course here, Fantasia Gardens. It's kind of connected to the Swan and Dolphin. That way that you could be dropped off in kind of like a random place and then walk over as well. All of these things are connected by the same pathways. Uber and Lyft are super easy to use. Like, yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but they make the apps very like user-friendly and straightforward. Usually also, if you can like ask cast members or guest relations or security, and they can usually help you out with that as well. Especially if you're using like Lyft to use the minivans, then they're like technically more qualified since that's part of Disney. If you're wondering which one is better, I wouldn't say one is better than the other. However, because Disney does have their partnership with Lyft, then maybe default to using that one. But if Lyft is saying it's $25 and Uber's like, I'll be there in 5 minutes for $15, then, take the Uber. Like, it's not going to have any effect on your experience. Is it easier to just use a rideshare or rent a car? It just depends on how much you're willing to spend and if you want to drive at all while you're at Disney. If you're not familiar with Disney, it could be somewhat complicated to drive because you have a lot of people that are also unfamiliar, that are also not great drivers either. So if you don't want to stress about that at all, then again, Disney's transportation will get you everywhere you need to go. It just may not always be the most direct or the absolute quickest in every circumstance, but it's really good 99% of the time. And then rideshare to kind of supplement that. As far as using rideshare or the Mears shuttle from the airport, at that point, if I knew I was going to be paying for some sort of transportation, I would probably just do direct pickup through a rideshare service, because with like an airport shuttle, you have to like wait for the whole thing to fill up, and you're waiting on everybody, and then you might not be the first one dropped off, and that'll just be kind of tedious. So some pros for using Uber in Disney World, which I've kind of touched on, is that you can get there faster, because say a bus just left, it might be 20 minutes before the next bus comes, but your Uber could be there in 5. So that would be faster in that scenario. Or if you're going from resort to resort for like a breakfast reservation that aren't connected to each other. Another pro is that it's private transportation, so you don't have to be crowded in with other people. And it's also available 24/7, and Disney transportation is not. The buses only start running like a certain amount of time before the park opens and a certain amount of time after it closes. So if you need to like go somewhere at 3 a.m., you're not going to be able to use Disney transportation. You're going to have to use something else. Some cons against using it is that it costs money. Like, Disney's already offering free transportation, so why spend money? It's also not as safe, because Uber drivers are just random people that decided to be an Uber driver. And there's not really any sort of vetting like Disney cast members are vetted. And then you can also have Uber drivers that aren't familiar with the area or like not good drivers. So you are kind of putting your life into their hands. But this is where minivans come in. Minivans are Lyft vehicles that are driven by actual Disney cast members. And they are covered in Minnie Mouse print, and they all look pretty much the same. So you'll recognize it instantly. They all have their own like bus pickup spot where the normal Disney buses pick up and drop off. So these are official through Disney. What's nice is it can hold 6 passengers. Most of the time a car is going to let you get 4 people, but this will be 6. And then they also have 2 car seats available, and there's no like extra fee. Like you don't have to upgrade the vehicle because it has car seats available type of thing. So that's also a great benefit and perk that they have. The cool thing about the minivans, here's kind of what it looks like. For Magic Kingdom, they can come up to that bus transportation stop that is right there at the park entrance and drop you off. No other rideshare service has that kind of access. All the others, you have to go to the Transportation and Ticket Center and then take the monorail or the ferry in from there. Minivans do have like wheelchair and ECV options as well for those that have any sort of mobility limitations. And the way that you get a minivan is directly through the Lyft app. And if you have any issues like with getting that to work, you can go to like the concierge desk or guest relations or any of those things to help you set it up if you don't see it. So there's lots of options for taking Uber around Disney or taking Lyft or taking minivans. And there's pros and cons and situations for when you should do it, when it's not really worth it. But if you have the money and you just want to get from point A to point B without the hassle, then go for it. It's a great option. We also have another post about getting around like between the theme parks without using Disney's transport, which is kind of similar to this. So check that out as well.